Okay everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we're back on GT Sport and we're back with the FIA Nations race in Group 1 at Sardinia. So this race wasn't a race that I actually expected a good result from, even though it was in Group 1 and it's at a track that I'm pretty competitive on. For some reason, in the practice session, didn't really find my pace. In the time trial I was okay because the Audi was a car that I like. However, we found out that the Toyota was the car that you needed to drive in this, and the first practice we did not go very well at all, didn't have very good pace. However, after we'd done the practice session, FIA sent me some tips with the brake bias and the way you have to do the shifting on this car, which helped me out in terms of shifting very late on in the apex, holding that, the higher gear until the very last minute, and then downshifting just at that point really did help the stability on this car, and also moving the brake bias back to +3 for the soft tyre and then +1 for the hard tyre was his advice. Now this was the first proper test. We did a quick little test before we went into this race and it did seem a little bit better than what I was in the first test. However, I didn't expect to be starting from P4 because my pace, like I say, in the Toyota is nowhere near as good as in the Audi. However, starting from P4 we've got a chance of picking up a good result. So going into turn 1 straight away, P3 brakes insanely early, catches me by surprise. I have to turn it into an overtake. Reactions were right on point there, managed to get out of the way and turn it into a very good move and got ourselves into P3. So pretty happy with that, a nice overtake, even though it wasn't meant. It was just the braking of P2 and P3 was just insanely early and it caught me by surprise. So luckily for myself, managed to get that position. Maybe he was starting on the hard tyre, I'm not 100% sure, but he had to brake it incredibly early. That caught me by surprise. We managed to get the move done and up into P3, so pretty good start straight away in this race. We're in a podium position and I would 100% have took this position that we're in now at the end of the race because I did not expect this. Now the lobby was reasonably competitive. FIA unfortunately didn't get a particularly good lap in qualifying, so I don't even think he got a lap in at all. So he was starting right at the back, probably going to go for a no stop and just see what you can do in the race. However, it overall wasn't really fast enough, I don't think, to make it work with the hard tyres. So you can see in front of us we have Nick and SDL Edu. Now SDL Edu was in one of our practice races and his finishing time was about, I think, about 12 seconds quicker probably overall than I could even hope to get near. So I knew that he was going to be incredibly hard to stay with or beat in this race, but we'll do our best. Going over the line, completing lap 1 in P3. Now we have to see if we can keep this position and hold off any drivers that come through. Now one driver to take note of is Devil, very fast in Group 1. We've raced him many a times in Group 1, a very, very fast driver. Now I wasn't sure what tyre he was on. We will find out at the pit stop, but I was aware that he was behind us. I did actually point him out at the start of the race as someone to watch out for in this race because he's very good in Group 1 cars. So this will be an interesting race if we can hold on to the podium position at the moment, going through this long left hand corner down into second gear. Something that really helps out in this car was going into second gear there. Also short shifting was needed in this race, and that is why the Toyota was the preferred car. Now the Audi isn't quite as good on fuel, and also the hybrid system just isn't as strong as the Toyota. The Toyota has massive advantages over the Audi in terms of the way it regenerates its hybrid system. So that is why in the top split you've seen that pretty much everyone in this lobby, I think everyone, as far as I'm aware, there might have been 1 or 2 cars using the Audi, but them cars were just going to suffer with the hybrid system. As we go past P1, after he's had a massive off on that very tricky left hand corner, that can catch out anyone, that corner, and it has caught out Edu there. And now we're up to P2 in this race, so this is pretty insane, and we're now going to get the slipstream of Nick, who is in P1. Will we be able to get ourselves into the lead of this race? This will be insane if I can manage to. You see, he's going to try and break the slipstream. We're not going to be too erratic with our movement, so we gain so much speed. We're going to fake it down the right and then tuck up on the left. He goes to defend it, we make that move, brake a little bit later, tuck it up on the apex and back on the throttle and manage to get ourselves into P1 in this race. So from P4, we're now in P1 at the start of lap 3, so pretty much the ideal start to this race. Could not have gone any better at this point so far. However, there is obviously a long way left in this race. We're only on lap 3 of 20 laps in this Group 1 race. And one thing about this track is, we know about this from the Group 2 race, it's very kind to be in the slipstream. Normally in Group 1 you do not want to be in the slipstream, however, it is still drivable, although I do prefer being without anyone in front of me in general. That's how I prefer driving, especially in Group 1. For me, it's a better situation to be in the lead and just try and defend the position. However, you will see straight away that in the slipstream, cars are able to stay with you through the corners just about at this track. There are a few corners like this section up here where they do suffer a little bit of loss. However, straight after this corner, you have an insanely long straight where they're able to just pull all the way back up as we run incredibly wide there. And that was a scary moment. I'm going to have to defend. I'm going to have no grip left on the tyres now because we've just got massive amount of dirt on them tyres. Trying to get some grip on acceleration. Luckily, managed to hold on to P1. And this actually may help us out in terms of defence because he's not going to get the slipstream down the straight now. So I'm going to stay over to the left-hand side. Now we're going to rev it out in 5th gear. He's flashing. I don't know if he's flashing to say he's not going to go for the overtake or whether he's going to go for the overtake. I say he's left because one thing, like I say, even though there was an advantage of being in the slipstream slightly for the long straight, I much preferred having no dirty air, especially for that corner where we've just made the mistake, because that corner was a very tricky corner. It can catch anyone out. You saw P1 get caught out before by that. Luckily this time I managed to get through that and just about save it. We skimmed the wall, no penalty given luckily, and we're still in P1 in this race. So far a little bit lucky to still be in this position in P1, but look how close the field is. If you have a little look on that replay camera, you can see a lot of cars are fighting for the lead as we skip through towards the end of lap 6, and we've gone a couple of laps ahead now. You can see the consistency's been fairly solid. We're not really pushing these tyres. One thing you'll see is I was really taking that corner so slow because I was so scared of bidding it again through there. I think I lost a bit of confidence on that corner by making that mistake, and I didn't want to do the same error again, so was trying to be very, very cautious through there. So you're going to see now that P2 is going to get a massive slipstream from behind us. Look at this slipstream, a bit of extra hybrid power also. That is one downside of running free to the rear bias. You don't pick up quite as much hybrid, however it is a little bit better on tyres and a little bit more secure. However, I decided to rev it out in 5th gear again, managed to defend that inside again through there and keep the lead in this race. So very intense racing again in these FIA races. We've had some really good enjoyable races and some very good results so far in the FIA season recently on this game. So hoping to keep this up and maintain this position in this race. It'd be amazing if we could come away with a win, but like I say, there are probably drivers behind us that have started this race in the hard tyre. It was possible to do and stay in the slipstream because of the power of the slipstream on this game. It's one thing I think that does need looking at by polyphony, and also obviously this track's not so bad for the dirty air, but normally on tracks, so if you go to Spa for example, you cannot, it's really hard to stay with the car around that track, but this track for some reason just seems to favour being in the slipstream, probably because it's a lot of slow corners with just the odd fast corner. It's not really a complete flowing fast corners everywhere. It's just like, this is probably one of the only real corners where the slipstream really does make a difference on the car. You can see we gain a tenth there, but then you've got the long straight now where cars can just gain up to half a second or more. You watch this now on the power as early as we can. Used a bit of hybrid up a bit too early there. You would have seen it on the hybrid chart, completely ran out before we hit to 4th gear, and now Nick is going to get a bit of a slipstream again behind us. Is he going to go for a move? Not sure if he's going to go for this lap. He's got a massive amount of slipstream down the straight. Is he going to be able to just go straight past us? Yeah, there's not much I can do to defend that. You can see straight round the outside, just on pure speed. So no point me fighting that. Decided to just tuck into the slipstream of P1 now and try and hold on to this P2 position in this race. Like I say, still P2 would be an amazing race result for myself, considering the pace that I had in practice. I did expect, to be honest, to be quite competitive at this race. However, obviously after practicing it, we found out that the Toyota was the car to go, and I'm not particularly amazing with this car. However, now on lap 10, you can see this is halfway through the race. This was where I was planning to do my pit stop. Some people would plan to pit also this lap. Maybe they'd extend, maybe they'd do the undercut pit a bit early. But it'd be interesting to see who decides to stay out, who decides to pit this lap. I could see a bit of a gap building up. You can see on the track map there's a space between that little group of cars following us, and that is what I could see, and that is why I decided this was a lap to pit. I could see that we'd come out in that nice little bit of free space and we'd have total clean air, and that is one thing you really want when you're on the hard tyres, especially on the outlap, because they can be a little bit cold, so you don't want anyone pressurising you. You want to just get on with it and get a nice solid lap in. So I decided in the pits we go. We're going to carry on. Nick in P1 and Devil stay out. That was very interesting. Could be different tyres, or they could just be obviously maybe hoping to get some sort of overcut, hoping we'd get traffic. But as you can see, that gap that I spotted has worked out absolutely perfect. We've got no one in front of us, cars behind us also pitted, so I've got 100% clean air, and this could work out. We could get ourselves back into the lead of this race in a very nice position. Also, we've warmed up hard tyres. The hard tyres will take other drivers that lap to warm up, so we should be in a nice position to maybe be able to a little bit of a gap up, but it'll all be down to what tyres other drivers are going onto. Will Nick be going onto the hard tyres? I kind of predicted he would be going on the hard tyres. Devil, though, was the one that we needed to pay attention on. Will he be on the hard tyres already and be able to go onto the medium tyres for this last stint? If that was the case, I think it was going to be pretty hard to defend against Devil with a softer tyre. So let's all see. Let's see how this race is going to pan out on this first lap out of the pits on the hard tyre. Just trying to keep it nice and consistent. You can see we've got a lot of drivers behind us. We've got Org, we've got Quentin doing extremely well after transitioning from the pad to the wheel, especially in Group 1. Group 1 is quite a hard car to transition from the wheel, pad to the wheel, as a pad is some combinations like Group 1 can be very, very competitive on the pad, but Quentin doing a good job. He was already very fast on this type of combination on the pad, but he's getting very close to matching his speed, pretty similar to the speed that he had on the pad already on the wheel. As we go down the main straight, this is interesting. You can see there that Nick was on the medium tyres. He's going to have to put hard tyres. However, Devil has come out the pits. He's now on the medium tyres, but we've got a massive advantage of speed down that straight through the middle of them, get ourselves back up into P1. However, we have now Devil in P2. What I would have been perfect would have Quentin to have been able to get ahead of Devil in that situation. That would have been ideal for myself and hold Devil up. However, it's not the case. You can see that Devil has got that position. He's in P2 with fresh tyres. You can see the extra grip that he's got over ourselves. But we're going to try and defend it. There's no point just giving up places. I'm going to try and hold him off for as long as possible, because you never know, if we can hold him off for 3 or 4 laps, that medium tyre advantage should start fading a little bit towards the end when the grip wears off. However, it'll be extremely difficult with the straights on this track, with the extra amount of speed he'll be able to get down the straights. But braking nice and early there, trying to make sure I get good exit speed just to try and build some sort of gap up to Devil. It's going to be really hard to defend against him. We're going to try our best. So going through this section, trying to make sure we don't make a mistake here, throwing it into the exit entry of the corner. Missed the apex a little bit there. You can see Devil had a little thought. He thought maybe he could go for that move, and decided to back out of that and just get our slipstream down the straight, trying to get a solid exit from that corner, short shift into fourth to get a bit of the hybrid usage. But again, you can see, because we're now on that +1 bias, not +3, the hybrid is not regenerating as much. So now you can see he's going to go down the right hand side. I'm using up the gears, and you can see revving out now in 5th gear, trying to defend from Devil. However, he's going to have that extra ability to brake a little bit later. We've also got to watch out for Quentin behind. We don't want to lose 2 positions in this battle. So kind of gave Devil the space there, and then tucked back up inside behind Devil. Not much I could do in that situation, but we managed to hold on to P2. Now we've got a bit of slipstream to help in the defence against Quentin. Into the braking zone, Quentin gives us a little tap there, not deliberate, and it actually kind of helped me out. Actually, it gives me a little bit of boost of speed as we look at how crazy this race is. Again, another really intense race, and these races have been really enjoyable on Gran Turismo recently. Look at that. 4 or 5 cars there battling for second place in this race. You've got Devil now, who's just going to fly away with it, but we've got 5 cars and a 6th car there in the background, all fighting for these podium spots in this race. And this is what we wanted. This is why we wanted longer races, different strategies, more consistency needed, and the racing is still extremely close. So it does show you that you didn't need them really short races. The short races tended to be a bit boring. Qualifying was determining the grid. Now you can have people like Devil, didn't get the best qualifying in, he's gone on a different strategy, and now he's in P1 in this race because he used hard tyres, and now he's on the mediums. So strategy coming into play, more enjoyable races, a good job by Polyphony on the race distances. We won't talk about the penalty system yet on this video. That is going to be in the future, because the penalty system obviously is in a little bit of a sorry state at the moment. However, going down straight, you see just about managing to hang on to Devil there in the slipstream down here. That's really helped me out in defence against Quentin. Now we're going to have to probably defend against Quentin for a few laps while he's obviously able to hang in on that slipstream with them hard tyres. One thing I was trying to do was keep my tyres alive for as long as possible. Keep them in the condition that I was going to get good traction off them in the corners. And that's why the one bias to the rear kind of helped probably with the traction areas, because you're not putting that load of rear bias on, which is going to get the car very unsettled in the corners, and then you're going to be getting on the throttle and the rear's going to slide around a bit. With just +1 with the hard tyres, it kind of calmed the car down. Now, it didn't give you the hybrid usage, however it did make the car pretty drivable through the braking zones and the heavy, the really heavy braking zones like this, where you're turning and braking at the same time. You can see it's quite settled there, accelerating out the corner, good traction, early upshift into 4th gear again to try and get a bit of the hybrid out of that 4th gear was really important. And again, obviously fuel was still a matter of importance in this race. It was just marginal with the Toyota. You had to just do a bit of short shifting into the braking zone again, heavy braking zone, down into 1st gear, trying to get on the throttle nice and early upshift into 2nd, getting really good traction out of that corner, and that was really important. It was so important to get the traction. We're going to have to do a bit of defensive weaving down the straight, so staying all the way over to the right there, catching Quentin, and then straight back over to the left to defend. And now that's our one move done. We can't really go back over to the right and then left again. So you can see just holding that left hand line now, revving it out, and we're going to try and defend against him into the braking zone, braking as late as I dared there, but managing to get very good traction off the tyres on acceleration considering the line I took through there, and still managing to hold on to this P2 in this race. So for the next few laps we're going to have to do some defending, I think, to Quentin there, just trying to hold him off, and then hopefully with the tyre saving that I've been doing and obviously the brake bias that I was using, it might start favouring myself towards the last few laps in this race. You see that Devil obviously has gained a bit of a lead in 4 laps or so. He's pulled out a few seconds, he's 3 seconds ahead, so he clearly has got the speed, but I actually expected him to pull out a little bit more than that. I was quite surprised that we were able to stay pretty close. If you look at the lap times, nothing amazing, but we're doing mid to low 27s, and these hard tyres, and that's why defending as well, we were actually doing reasonable lap times with defensive work and just not really pushing too aggressively because I didn't want to make a mistake. As you can see, one mistake in this race was going to lose me quite a large amount of positions. You can see on the replay camera just how close the racing is as we watch 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 there cars. You can see this is incredible racing again in Group 1. Quite enjoyable to actually have a race in Group 1. Normally Group 1 is just determined by your qualifying position because of the dirty air. At least at this track where you could actually make moves because of the nature of the track. As we see Quentin now building up that slipstream, is he going to be able to get close enough into the braking zone? He's going to go over to the right hand side. I'm going to hold that inside. What I did find was that the braking was actually quite good on that inside line, and you were able to brake very late, so managing to hold on to that position again into that corner. And now we've just got a quarter of the race to go. This is a very, very intense race again on Gran Turismo Sport, one that I really did enjoy. I do love this track, even though I wasn't particularly strong at it. We're in a good position, we're in P2, but I love the flow of it in high downforce cars. I think in the Red Bull car I enjoyed it a little bit more, the X 2019 that we raced. I think it was in a daily race a while ago. I had very, very good speed at that car at this combination. So we have a little look back at Quentin behind us there, just trying to see what the gap is like. Is he going to be able to go for a move into the braking zone, and realising he's a bit too far back there, he's not going to be able to go for that move. You can see him in the mirror, a bit too far back, so just trying to hold on there as we see Devil again increasing that lead a little bit, but it's not flying ahead. You can see that we actually did a 27.0 I think it is there on one lap, so getting close to beating our soft tyre runs. You can see I think that definitely shows you that little mistake I made on the soft tyres going through that fast left hand corner kind of affected my confidence for a bit, but getting the new tyres on, being a little bit more confident I think with the grip, started to get a little bit more pace back now that we're on the hard tyre. Obviously again going very defensive there, trying to catch Quentin out there. You can see going always right and then back over to the left. I'm allowed to do that one defensive move, and then I'm still staying to that inside line. You can see I'm not going to risk going over to the right because I didn't want him to get an undercut and try and do a fake on me. Like I really like doing that fake move where we go to the right and then undercut to the left. So just trying to keep this position now. P2 would be a good result for myself. There's not much chance of catching Devil up there in P1. We obviously have to do a lot of defending as well. You can see the lap times have been very, very solid and consistent considering the defensive driving that we've had to do also, and also constantly looking in the mirror. You know, not being able to make a mistake. If you're on your own and you've got no one around you, you can just drive 100%, you know, smooth, keeping the consistent lines. And at the moment, our attention is 50% on the road in front of us and 50% on the rear. However, what you can see there coming up to the end of lap 19 was that we kept that consistency going, and the tyres did seem to start to fade a bit for Quentin compared to mine. So we were able to build that lead up to 1.1 to 1.4. He did gain a little bit every time going down the main straight. but we're still in P2 in this race. And now all we have to do really is just hold on to this P2 all the way to the end. You can see Devil has built that lead up a little bit, up to 5 seconds. I've kept the consistency now on these tyres. You can see still doing mid 27s and low 27s on these tyres on the hard tyre. Shows you that the hard tyre was actually pretty competitive around here. It was a decent tyre, but obviously once the fuel comes down, the hard tyre does tend to be a little bit better. Because at the start, obviously at the start of the race, we were on 4 tanks of fuel. Group 1 is a lot faster when you burn the fuel off. That is why a lot of people burn fuel in these cars. But just a few corners to go now. We're halfway round the lap. On the final lap of this 20-lap race in Group 1, in P2, in a very, very solid position. You can see we've got that gap to 1.3 seconds. It's looking very safe. All I have to do now is just take it nice and easy. There's no point in me risking anything because we've got a solid lead. Nearly broke the slipstream also, which is nice to do on the final lap. Going through this long left-hand corner, so literally crawling through there. We didn't take any risks at all. I did not want to risk binning it there. Into the final main braking zone. Then we're flat out now through the final corner, and we're going to take a very, very nice and well-earned P2. I have to say I didn't expect this result, even though, like I say, it was in Group 1, one of my stronger classes, and the track is definitely strong for myself. But for some reason I couldn't find much speed in this Toyota, but managed to take that. And thanks to FIA again for them little tips that he sent me on PlayStation Network to help me out around this track with the brake bias and the gearing through the corners. It really did help me out. So we pick up a nice P2 out of this race. Not particularly fast finishing time, but a lot of defensive driving had to be done in that race, and there was a bit of battling, so we lost a few seconds with that. But Devil there with a reasonable finishing time. I think he could have done a lot faster than that if he started from P1, but we take P2 in this race, and some very solid points considering I wasn't expecting the result. So 319 points, and I think I would have 100% took that amount of points if you would have offered me it at the start of the race. So happy with that. Hope you enjoyed that race. More very, very fun racing, I have to say. Very intense racing again in an FIA race. Really enjoyed a lot of these races throughout this season. So hope you enjoyed these races. Hope you enjoyed that race. Make sure you hit that like button. I do appreciate every single one of you that clicks the like button when you enjoy these videos. And please make sure you subscribe to this channel if you haven't already subscribed, and click that notification button so you don't miss any future videos or streams. Thanks again for watching, everyone.